I'm going to introduce, first of all, our two keynote speakers. So Warren Downey from Specialist Risk Group. Now, you can all read his biography. That's on the conference things. But I do need to share with you that he has written lyrics for the #1 singer in Scandinavia. Am I right?
I didn't know that.
Everyone's got to have a life.
So please do Google that. Also introduce John. I'm afraid I don't have a similar level of detail, John.
I can't sing and I can't
You
write
can't sing?
lyrics, I'm
I don't know
afraid.
if Warren can sing, but Warren can play the trumpet as well. So I know you wish you hadn't
Wish I'd
shared
never
anything.
spoken to you before we started.
So, yeah. So, and I think your company is a subsidiary of his company. Is that,
Correct.
I'm right in saying that? So you're going to talk us through your journey, and then we're going to move into a panel with the two of you plus Steve, who is the CEO of Advantage, which I think, are you the largest insurance company in Gibraltar?
I think so.
In the
Yeah.
world, I think.
Not yet. No.
The important bit of the world, yeah. So I'll hand over to you,
Okay.
John.
Thank you very much, Kathryn. That is me on the left, although it was taken, as you can see, many years ago, and it's to this day is still my LinkedIn post. So, and if anybody wants to know the background to the photo, I'm happy to share it with you over a drink later. So, so my name is John Young. I am the founder and managing director of an MGA. I've had to amend my speech a little bit as the day has gone on. So it's good that we're using those three letters. So we're an MGA. We are based here in Gibraltar. We set up in 2001. So I want to just share with you our story. I think someone said earlier they didn't like the word journey, but it has been a journey. And so if you can just bear with me, you'll be pleased to know that we do have a hard stop, so you will get rid of me eventually. So, so like many startups, certainly for us anyway, small startups, we started from a very, very humble beginning. So having worked in London, both for a Lloyd's syndicate and also for an MGA, I resigned. I had 12 months non-compete, so which was in 2000, and so I spoke to the then insurance supervisor Brian Morris. And so, I think a big part of today is about being able to approach the regulator. So I'll come on to that in a moment. But we started to put together a bit of a plan. And as you know, an MGA underwrites on behalf of typically third-party capital, and in our case, Lloyd's syndicates. So, so we started. I had a laptop and a printer and a fan because it was warm in the summer in the spare bedroom. The printer and the fan were both gifts of my parents, so which is very kind of them. So everyone's talked a lot about outsourcing and obviously working with insurance managers. So when we started in 2001, outsourcing was still very much in its infancy, and as the internet improved, I found a company called Smarter Work, which I think has probably been bought by somebody. But through Smarter Work, I found somebody in Turkey who kindly designed our logo, which we still continue to use. There was a lovely lady who was based in Florida, and my IT skills have improved slightly, but I was certainly not up to brochures and proposal forms. Obviously, we have Adobe now to help us with all these things. So working from the US, she put together our first brochure, our application forms. I worked with a consultant in the UK. We put together our policy wordings. Our website was designed by a friend here in Gibraltar. Our furniture, so I'm half a Scot, my mum is Scottish, dad's English. Our furniture came from Jyske Bank, which is now obviously Trusted Novus Bank. And being a Danish company, they bought the top of the range everything. So that furniture that we bought from them in 2001, we still continue to use. So as they say, buy once, buy well. So Mike Ellis was on one of the panels earlier. So Mike of Artex Risk Solutions here in Gibraltar to ensure that everybody makes the connection. So I was flying over to London with my wife in December and picked up one of the Gibraltar finance magazines. And in the December edition, or sorry, the fourth quarter edition, was a very interesting article by Mike. So Mike, I can't see you, but if you are, thank you. Mike, thanks very much to you because your article took me back many years to when we started in 2001, and so particularly, obviously, the various key points that you talked about setting up here in Gibraltar. So I followed some of your headers. And so I think the first one is, of course, the access to the regulator. So back in 2001, there was no such thing as a pre-authorization meeting. But what has not changed from that day to this is they are very, very approachable. And so I contacted the FSC, and I explained a little bit about what I'd been doing in the UK for the last previous 15 years, which was underwriting a niche class of business, which is medical professional liability business, or medical malpractice business, as some people call it. So I spoke to Brian, explained what I had been doing, and my wife is Australian, so of course the 300 days of sunshine suddenly moved a part of my 12 months non-compete into the, darling, how do we stay here? So that was my challenge, and so I went and had a meeting with Mike, and asked him that, would the FSC, as they were then, consider an application from a new MGA to set up here in Gibraltar. So Mike was welcoming, friendly, and he gave sufficiently warm and encouraging words to enable us to put together the business plan and to look to establish our company here in Gibraltar, which we did on the 15th of June 2001. So our office was in Engineer Lane, and very much with a team of 3 volunteers. My wife obviously wished to stay here, so she was enrolled as our HR and admin director, and because she came from an HR role, and with an accountant, we set up the MPLC. So we outsourced a number of vital roles, which comes on to sort of working with the insurance managers and being open-minded. So our accounting and compliance needs were outsourced to the then Baker Tilly, which some of the component parts of that original business are now part of EY or BDO. Our legal, HR, and company secretarial was outsourced to Eastlers and also to fiduciary. And the creation of our insurance policies was in accordance and in conjunction with Kennedy's Law in London. And they also agreed to provide our clients with a 24-hour helpline. So 23 years later, we still continue to work with EY, Eastlers, Kennedy's, and fiduciary. You'll be pleased to know I'm on to page 2.
Of 2.
I was so for us as an MGA, we needed capital, so one of the best sources of capital, certainly with the requisite licenses, is Lloyd's of London. So I met 2 Lloyd's syndicates for the sake of the speech, 1007 and 2147. And we prepared a business plan for the underwriting. And so we sought a fully delegated underwriting authority from the 2 Lloyd's syndicates. So as you will be aware, we were acting as their agents. So we're not, never have done, acted as a broker. All of our business is produced by Lloyd's brokers or independent brokers, and their role is to advise the healthcare clients that we deal with. So after the catastrophic events of 9/11, the Lloyd's and London insurance markets and also the European reinsurance markets pretty much came to a standstill. Everybody was keen to assess what liabilities or potential liabilities they had as a result of the devastating effects of 9/11. So when everything, the market did reopen, I found that we had reached very much an impasse. So our license from the FSC was dependent on securing underwriting capacity. Our underwriting capacity depended on Lloyd's granting approval for the MPLC to be a Lloyd's cover holder, which is quite a big task. And our Lloyd's approval to be approved as a cover holder was dependent on our license from the FSC. So we were very much in an old-fashioned standoff. So once again, I telephoned Brian and I explained the predicament that we found ourselves in. He asked me to leave it with him, and later that day, a courier arrived with a letter from the GFSC, which included our financial services license. And it also contained a covering note from Brian. Brian said that by granting our license, it would enable me to seek Lloyd's cover holder approval and then to secure our underwriting capacity. Brian's only condition was I was to return from London with copies of those documents and to go straight up to the FSC to ensure that we were who we said we were, and we were backed by, obviously, backed by Lloyd's. So I flew to London the very next day, and so to recap on Mike's comments, it is all about the access to the regulator. Without Brian's practical, supportive, and elegant solution, I don't think we would have been able to open in the time that we did. Lloyd's approval, which still hangs on the wall in my office, was dated the 28th of November 2001, and our capacity provided by the 2 Lloyd's syndicates was in London. They say the lines went down, so that's when the contract is entered into, went down on the 1st of December 2001. And that contract also hangs in my office. So, a lot of hard work went to obtaining our approvals. And of course, I did the right thing by Brian. I flew straight back to London. I walked up to the FSC and I handed him copies of all the various documents that he had asked for. So we were up and running. But of course, as any new startup, the licenses, the approvals are one thing, but then getting the business is another. Now, one of the very many benefits of underwriting on behalf of Lloyd's of London is that we benefit, the MPLC benefits from the fact that Lloyd's has 200 insurance and reinsurance licenses around the world. And so to put that into some context, our very first piece of business bearing in mind the stamps went down on the 1st of December 2001, incepted on the 1st of January 2002. And it was a private hospital based in Hong Kong. So you think, goodness me, an MGA based in Gibraltar, writing business, corporate business. So this is, we provided medical malpractice cover for this private hospital in Hong Kong. It was placed with us by Willis, so obviously now WTW. So for the first time, it was a case of, gosh, all those bits of paper, ideas, hopes and aspirations had come together. And so we were finally open for business, and we had some business on the books. In 2003, we opened a branch office in London, which we still continue to have. And we also opened a branch office in Australia. So again, that's all with the support and assistance of the regulator. We were a very, very early adapter of the EU-wide passporting. I can remember having lunch with Marcus Killock, who was then at the regulator, to explain the fact that although we were based in Gibraltar, we didn't have any business in Gibraltar. And so the passporting arrangements were very key and crucial to our business. Similarly, when Brexit happened, and for those of you who have flown here, 97% of Gibraltar voted to remain. So I think you're fairly safe to have a discussion with anybody about Brexit if, of course, you voted to remain in the UK as well. So we found an EU solution during one of the many lockdown periods, and we have continued to trade. Now, stealing another bit of Mike's article, he obviously talks about a competitive cost structure. And there is a HEP status here in Gibraltar, and also the HNWI, or Category 2 as they call it now. And that is for individuals who have skills which are not readily available here in Gibraltar. So if when you're talking about attracting people to Gibraltar, there are some tax benefits for them if they have skills that are not readily available here, and it's an application process. The next two bullet points I've had to delete. One as a consequence of Nigel's announcement last night, and the other one I just decided that had already been covered, so I didn't want to labour the point. So Mike also touched on the multicultural environment, and that is very, very, very important and very true. Over the years, we have had members of our staff who were born, raised in Australia and also in Fiji. So when you live in a climate where the weather's good, it attracts people. Talking about people, so my wife, who was, I think, our first volunteer, so she has recruited a fantastic group of people from a diverse background and also a diverse number of industries. So our FD, Steve, was never in insurance. He was FD for a very large taxi firm in the UK that had buses and all sorts. So we've attracted some amazing people. And Matthew, who is here on the left-hand side, Matthew joined us 21 years ago, and I think our newbie, our baby at the company has already been with us for 5 years. So, people who understand and love Gibraltar and want to get on. This is a very, very good home for them. And particularly for the fact that it's safe. We have a diverse community. We have a couple of mosques. We've got a synagogue. So Gibraltar welcomes people from all walks of life and all religions. And I think because the first settlers came from Italy, and everybody who has come here since has come from somewhere, and many of whom, including myself, call this home. So proof of concept. So from our office in Gibraltar, we have underwritten, I say, medical malpractice cover for a broad spectrum of healthcare providers, and they are domiciled worldwide, excluding the USA. And the reason it's excluding the USA, that is because the underwriting appetite of the now 4 syndicates that we underwrite on behalf of. Our clients range from national governments to large groups of private hospitals. Some of them are listed, through to groups of doctors, dentists, and allied healthcare professionals. Lauren, who's also here, helped me out, to check some of the stats. So over the years, we have received inquiries from hundreds of Lloyd's brokers and independent brokers. And to put the scope into some context, the risks that these brokers have sent to us have come from 120 countries. Now, obviously there's been a lot of discussion about Gibraltar, and of course its prominent position in the UK motor, and increasingly now with household and pet. So 50% of our business comes from the UK or from some of the other, UK, such as, the Jerseys and Guernseys, the Isle of Mans of the world. So we count all of that as UK. And 50% of our business comes from everywhere else in the world. So since we established in 2001 and started underwriting in 2002, we have had many, many Australian clients as clients. Many Australian healthcare clients as clients. So we have regular visits. They come to London. Some of them have even been down here. So it's with an open mind, much is possible from here in Gibraltar. And as I say, to this day, we have a tiny amount of local business. So, without the licenses, without the UK's agreement for us to access the UK, and without the Brexit solution and Lloyd's licenses, then we would not be in business. So it's all thanks to those various parts. So as someone said earlier on, an insurance policy is a promise to pay, and absolutely it is. So we have our claims team. We have 2 med-mal claims lawyers, and they and we have handled 30,000 claims. I say, Lauren gave me the stats. Of the 30,000 claims, 95% of those claims have been settled and resolved. So it is about, as always, delivering on promises. So the promise to pay needs to be made. Lloyd's have the 3 lines of security to ensure that every valid claim from a policyholder is paid, and I think that's testament to what we do as well. So some of our UK clients we've had for 20 years, and we pride ourselves on working hard, having quarterly meetings with them, and so through the I think there's reference earlier to a hard market. We are certainly being propelled towards the next soft market. It depends, of course, as to how soft that market is, but we have been through a few of those, and to retain clients, particularly based here, is as a result of a lot of hard work by our team. So with Brit Insurance, and you were seeing from Yvonne's presentation earlier, the Brit logo was on the right-hand side. So I decided to also just make a mention of Brit. So Brit was one of our syndicates, and Nigel Feetham, Right Honourable Nigel Feetham MP, was pivotal in introducing the local legislation for captives. And with Gibraltar on the map as potential captive domiciles, Brit Insurance decided to open its own reinsurance captive here. Brit chose the insurance manager model, and they engaged Aon here in Gibraltar, to help them, assist them to establish the business. So there was obviously talk also earlier about NEDs, non-exec directors. So Nigel Feetham, who was of course then at Hassan's, Nigel, Chris Johnson, who is just back there, and myself, we were the three non-execs that Brit appointed. And the three of us worked incredibly hard to assist the London-based executive directors. And as 10 years as their non-exec chairman, Brit's business grew and was underwriting over £500 million a year. And of course, it became a significant contributor to GIB PLC. So turning to the future, and we are on the home straight, my message is very much about thinking out of the box and engaging with some incredibly gifted and intelligent local professional lawyers, accountants, and insurance advisors. With access to the regulator, particularly now with the pre-application process, you will learn a lot. So, for anybody that asked for my view, it's about coming to Gibraltar, as you guys have kindly done, meeting with some of the advisors, meeting with the regulator, and exploring ways in which your business may well benefit and prosper from being based here. So with Nigel being appointed in October as the Minister of Justice, Trade, and also in Trade and Industry, we still continue and will very much continue to have an approachable regulator. And as I said earlier, we do have a very safe and friendly multicultural environment here in Gibraltar in which to establish a business. Now, a little has been talked about, of course, about the treaty, and Chief Minister Fabian Picardo is working very, very hard with his team to try and deliver a solution for us. And what I don't think anybody has said, the whole concept of the Schengen Agreement with Spain and the UK government is to improve the lives of people who live on both sides of the border. And so to bring wealth and opportunity to the Spanish side, as well as obviously increasing opportunities for us here in Gibraltar. There is acute levels of unemployment, particularly with the youth across the border. And so for them to have greater opportunities, particularly if the airport is opened up, then the whole Campo de Gibraltar, as they call it, will benefit. And that's very much the mantra of both the Spanish, the British, and the Gibraltarian government. So let's hope a solution is found. But without doubt, and again mentioning something that was mentioned earlier, without doubt, and certainly with 300 days of sunshine, domiciling our business in Gibraltar was one of the very best decisions we ever made. So to enable the MPLC to continue to open up greater distribution channels, and hopefully to broaden the product range that we offer for our healthcare clients, and of course benefit from the scale and resources of a much larger company, which has the vision and leadership to expand their business globally. We became a part of this the specialist risk group last year.
Woo. Oh, sorry. I thought the microphone was off.
So borrowing a phrase, Warren, from your website, which I hope is okay, particularly as we're now part of the group, So to quote, SRG brings together individuals and businesses worldwide who are united in the pursuit of specialism and working together to build a company that they are proud to tell their friends and family about. So thank you very much indeed for listening. Yvonne, who I can just see here, Yvonne has two hats. She is also the Lloyd's representative here in Gibraltar. So any questions about Lloyd's, please direct them to Yvonne. But please allow me to introduce you rather to Warren Downey, who is the Group CEO of the Specialist Risk Group. And thank you very much for your time and for listening.
Thank you, John. Well, thank you, John. I'm very pleased to be here. This has been my notebook is full of anecdotes and amazing facts. It's been a day of firsts, 24 hours of firsts. I've written down some of the firsts. Yusse, who's in charge of the sound desk. Yusse, who's in charge of the sound desk, has been playing relaxing bossa lounge, if they're wondering what the music is. So we'll be using that at all future SRG events. It's my first cruise. And I've had no seasickness, so it's great. It's the first time for a long time arriving at the border when I got in the short queue. I've been, since the National Act of Health Self-Harm, that Brexit was, I've stood in the queue seemed to be getting longer for people like me, so that was a great thing to experience for a long time. And I also had a first in that I experienced a new kind of cocktail party yesterday. At home in the UK, cocktail parties, Bob usually has too much to drink, and Brendy tells a couple of off-colour jokes. But here you announce tax policy. So that's different. That's a first. I want to give my perspective. I've been an insurance broker for 30-something years, but I'm not going to give my perspective as an insurance broker, but rather as an acquirer and a business partner with John. So I'm going to briefly touch on who are SRG, why the MPLC, and our experiences in Gibraltar as an acquirer. So the clue's in the name. John and I are not marketing geniuses. We are a group that does specialist risks. And the MPLC is the medical professional liability company. So if anyone's branding expertise, we're available for hire. We're an insurance intermediary based in London. We started this chapter of the firm in September 2019. We've grown quickly. We're the 18th largest broker and intermediary in the UK. And as John rightly quoted, the purpose of the company is to build the kind of company we're proud to tell our friends and family about. Not a typical mission statement for an insurance broking firm, but it means that our first priority in everything is people and culture, and second is specialism, and third is everything else. And so we've grown a lot over the last 4 years, and we're doing about $1 billion of premium into the market. And I say that because it sounds more impressive than £785 million. We are an organic growth company that sometimes does M&A, and we've done 19 M&A transactions, and it's an important part of our growth. Not the only part, but an important part of our growth. So that's it about us. Moving quickly on. Why the MPLC? Well, that's easy. John is the reason we're here. If you believe in people and culture, then associate yourself with expert specialists who have a great culture and are great people. And actually, as a general theme, today, whether it's talking about regulation or government interaction or building a business or making wise choices, it's usually about the people you associate yourself with. So we're very proud to be associated with John, the MPLC, Matthew, Lauren, and the team. And we're proud because it is a deep and narrow specialist that makes a difference in the world. It's a growing business. And most importantly, perhaps as an acquirer, we know what we are, or I know what I am, and we are not brave enough to start a business from our garage or spare bedroom. We're very respectful of people that do, super impressed and super flexible, because we have not done that. And we take that extremely seriously. And John's built a business out of the ground, and that is to be applauded. And all of you that have done the same were so impressed, and you should be very proud of yourselves. Knowing that that's not us, we look for people that have been brave enough to build something that we can help scale to the next level. So that made it easy decision for us to be associated with the MPLC. So quickly on to my third and final point, which is to explain our interaction in Gibraltar and what that experience has been like. For those of you watching at home or reading an article that comes out of this, this is the important bit. If you're an acquirer of a business, you come to Gibraltar and you're trying to get things done. Our 19 transactions have taken us across 5 or 6 different jurisdictions, and we've had very mixed experiences of dealing with regulators. I myself, having been at JLT, the former insurance broking firm JLT, have been regulated in, we're trying to count it up just before lunch, between 12 and 15 different countries, personally regulated, and done acquisitions in 12 or 15 different countries. And in only 2 have there been proactive and pro-business engagement. And you'll be relieved to know that Gibraltar is one of them. The other is Singapore. And I think there's some interesting parallels to draw. And I think to be associated with a country that 50 years ago was a swamp and today is in the G20 is a pretty good thing to be associated with. And for me, it's where purpose has met people. We've talked about the importance of people and personal interaction, and it's where purpose meets people. Safety in regulation is a given. Every regulator in the world writes the same words at the top of the page. To keep the financial system safe is the FCA, to make sure that nothing goes wrong, that consumers are treated fairly. That's a given. Of course that's true. The question is, what else? And in the case of Gibraltar, the words enhance Gibraltar and promote good business find their way into the mission statement, as they do in Singapore, where promoting economic growth is alongside financial security as a purpose. So if you've got great purpose, you're more likely to be successful. And if you populate it with great people, you've got the real recipe. And that's been our experience of Gibraltar. Pre-meetings, long before we got to the moment of doing a transaction, was really constructive. Being able to talk to someone, to talk about who we are, what we're trying to do, what's unusual or different about us that may not have crossed their desks before. We found that to lead to a greater degree of personal engagement, speed, efficiency. The process was straightforward, and amongst the 2 fastest regulators we've ever dealt with. So congratulations for that. I asked Eleanor Bocataria, our company secretary, and Nikki Eastham, our head of M&A, last night, to give me their view on dealing with the regulator here in Gibraltar. And I'll read their words so that you don't think I'm making it up. I would say, this is my company secretary, I would say that they have a high level of proactive engagement with regulated companies. They were relatively quick at approving, and they have an idea of pre-notifying a change of control via phone call and meeting, and there's more human interaction. You also have to pay to make a notification, which I imagine reduces the number of unserious applications and keeps things more efficient. And my head of M&A, Nikki, said, I agree with everything Ellie said. I also thought the notion of pre-trailing and the involvement of the counterparty, i.e. the buyer and the seller, were good and signalled the intent of both parties. The only slight more negative comment I have is that it was reassuringly expensive. Trained well. So with that, I think we're going to take some questions, but I'll just finish by saying we're looking forward to Gibraltar's removal from the grey list. We're looking forward to hear of the success of the treaty, cross-border treaty. And as he's left, I can say this about him. And if you see Nigel, don't say I said this, because it sounds very sort of sucky-uppy, as we call it. And that is that, sometimes you think, as a person in business, that maybe you should do some kind of public service one day, and perhaps even consider the possibility of getting involved in politics, and then you wake up from the horrible nightmare. And however, having seen Nigel in action, with the exception of tax announcements, it seems to me that when you have a pragmatic, professional, experience-driven person with real business experience in a role like that, you can really make a difference. So I will finish by saying we are committed to Gibraltar, we're open to new opportunities, and excited for the future.
Thank you. And I'm going to give Steve the opportunity to chip in here. Said you're the biggest insurance company in Gibraltar, obviously very successful.
Thank you.
What do you put that down to? What do you like about being in Gibraltar? How does it help you to be so successful?
I would say we've probably heard a lot about the regulator from an engagement perspective, and the speed of decision making. And that doesn't always mean saying yes, let's be clear. Even a company of our size with our resources has had applications turned down before, and I think that's healthy. I think what makes Gibraltar successful is its ability to adapt and evolve. I think where it's perhaps overtaken some other jurisdictions who 20 years ago you would have had it on a par with is the embracement of change, be it Solvency II, be it obviously the impact of Brexit and the GAR that's coming soon, hopefully, and the challenges that's brought. It's not shied away from those, and it's dealt with them head on. I think our size is both a blessing and a curse. Ultimately, there's a limited pool of people here, which means a limited pool of people to choose from. But it does mean a concentration of talent, and not just in terms of employees, but in terms of advisors, legal, accounting, people who are real experts in insurance. And to find that within 7 square kilometres, I don't think you get that anywhere else in the world, really. So I would say its success is down to those things. I think historically the, should we say, competitive financial environment helped attract people over in the early days. And not just tax, because that's been talked about, but particularly Solvency I, very much less capital needed to set up here than in the UK. But Solvency II has levelled that playing field. And I think it's added credibility to GIB as a jurisdiction, that it's not decided to go down the offshore route. It's very much embraced being seen as, like with the recent announcement over the OECD tax, while for some of us that means paying quite a lot more tax. I think deep down it's a good thing that GIB is taking itself seriously as a place to do business. So I think in terms of what going forwards, potentially, I think what all businesses need, and this isn't particular to GIB, is certainty. I think there are some uncertain things out there at the moment in the wider world we're all aware of, but locally, as we said, with the potential border issue and for us the implementation of the GAR. But obviously the government and Minister Feetham is working through that. With the business we work in, historically, shall I say traditionally, a lot of the roles we did were perhaps filled with the expat market. And we've seen post-Brexit that resource pool really dry up. So I think, although he's not here to hear it, Nigel's recent announcement over the initiative to get more younger people into financial services is a very good one that we're happy to support, because we need to kind of grow our own talent base because it's not coming in anymore. So I think more encouragement of that will mean that, because at the moment it's all very well attracting new companies, but if we're all just picking the talent off each other, then that's not very healthy. So
no. So I think, in short, it's a grown-up regime that's very flexible.
Yes.
Yeah.
That would have been quicker. Yep.
And I think I don't think anyone's mentioned this, but my daughter has benefited from this. Is the Government of Gibraltar Scholarship Scheme? So where people who grow up here can go to university, and the government gives them quite a good subsidy of their education. And I think the more we can see those well-educated people coming back, as my daughter plans to do at some point, then I think that will tend towards that resource gap, won't it?
Hopefully.
Yeah.
That was a pitch for your daughter's career there, wasn't it?
Big one?
That was good. It was a good pitch for your daughter.
Good pitch, yeah.
Take a cut.
That's right, yeah.
Excellent.
Well, I wish. Yeah. So I think you've mentioned the things companies need: certainty over the border, taxation, I suppose. What would be on your wish list, guys?
Wish list is very much so. Sorry, I'll go first.
Go ahead.
Is very much for the openness and the accessibility of the regulator to continue, and because that does set us apart from other countries. When we were looking at a solution to Brexit. We had some early engagement with another country. I'll just say another country, particularly if this gets quoted later. Their response is, well, you pretty much should have started this 2 years ago. We've had to all adapt as we've gone on. So I think some stability and certainty for the future would certainly be on my wish list. And as I mentioned, anything that can be done by the respective governments to come to a better arrangement between Spain and Gibraltar will then help us recruit people not only from the UK but across the EU and beyond, because there's much better beaches in Spain.
I would say a similar thing, just in a slightly different way. We've just published our 2030 business plan as a firm, and we picked 4 themes that we thought would be very important in our development. And the first 3 are, I won't go through them, but the first 3 are about change and grasping different kinds of opportunities. But the 4th one, and the least glamorous one, is just consistency. And I think having heard the stories of building businesses and interacting with regulators, it's okay to have one of your goals to be consistent, to continue to promote and keep that.
Completely agree. Yeah, I mean, I think there's so much uncertainty in the wider world. The more we can make consistency and certainty in the things that we can control in Gibraltar, I think that's perfect. Yeah. I'm going to use a football analogy. If you're, as a Sheffield United fan, consistency from referees would be a good thing, and the way that VAR is applied, and that's basically what we're all looking for here.
And as a Sheffield fan, if you go early, you get to play as well, which is great.
So I'm going to open up for questions. Does anyone have any questions? I think, Denise, you've got the microphone.
Oh, sorry.
So does
Anybody have any questions? Warren, you were good. You were very funny. Thank you for that entertaining end to the conversation. So it looks like we have no questions for the panel. Any closing remarks?
Anything you'd like to?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard a lot about InsurTech today. Some of it new and learning, and I think it's been very beneficial. I think, as perhaps someone who would be seen as a traditional insurer, I think if you came and saw what we did day to day, you'd class us as an InsurTech as well, with the use of data, etc. And I think all companies are having to evolve into being InsurTechs. Otherwise, you're going to get left behind. I mean, particularly for our business that plays on the price comparison websites, it's a very dynamic environment, and you would lose your shirt quite quickly. That was shirt, just to be clear, if you didn't embrace InsurTech. So I think what we're seeing is probably Gib being a good melting pot of the old and the new, and that quest for data and all these great capabilities that we've heard about today. I think we're in the right place for those insurers who perhaps wouldn't class themselves as InsurTechs to be the InsurTechs of the future. So it doesn't just have to be start-up and new companies. I think even the existing companies can embrace some of what we've heard today.
Yeah.
What he said.
What he said.
So for me, just really on behalf of us all, just to say thank you very, very much to Denise, who did all the hard yards, and of course to the government for putting this event together. I know that we're not the final slot, but just to have a word, just say thank you very much. Top job, Denise, and everybody else who has put this together. I think it's a very worthwhile conference for us here in Gibraltar, and for those of you who have come to visit us. So thank you all very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A round of applause.